we've become really adept at two notes on the treble clef staff, the two do's and the two sols, through those first two examples of Manuel Pratique. So now it's time to extend our range a little bit. And this is where I think Manuel Pratique really shows its value. Because we're going to do this in a very systematic way. And you're also going to see what those open note heads, those things that look like a half note, are going to mean in the context of Manuel Pratique. So let's take a look at number 3. And you're going to see on number 3, on the two lines of number 3 here, we see a lot of different notes that we hadn't had before in number 1 and number 2. But notice all of the notes that have the open note heads in the stems, all the notes that look like half notes, those are the notes that are familiar to us. Those are the notes that we have seen before. So notice the first note we have right here, that's the second line sol. The second note we have that's a half note looking note, that's again a second line sol. Then we have a third space do, another third space do, another second line sol, another second line sol, and so forth. If we go over here, we have a sol that's on top of the staff, and if we look in the second line, we have the do that's on that first ledger line underneath the staff. So what those half notes are going to mean in this context is we're talking about the notes that we already know, what Manuel Pratique calls its landmark notes, or what sometimes I like to call the anchor notes. So these are the notes that we already know, that we're already familiar with. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the fact that we know these notes already, that we're comfortable with these two notes, the do and the sol already. Manuel Pratique is going to remind us of that by writing them with the open note heads. And then we're going to add 4 notes to that. We're going to add the notes that are above and below sol, and we're going to add the notes that are above and below do. So let's just go over to the solfege syllables that I've written on top here. Here's our sol. Let's just take stock of this. What is our note that is 1, or what is our solfege syllable that is 1 above sol? It is la. Or another way of asking that is, what is the note that is right above G, and that is A? And then what is the note that is right below sol? That is an F, or a fa. And so notice, if we come over to this first group of 3, at the beginning of number 3, we start on sol, we end on sol, and right in between, we go to that note that's right above sol. What note is right above sol? We know that. It's la. Same thing over here. If we go to this group of 3, we start on a sol, we end on a sol, and in the middle we have that note that's 1 below sol, which is fa. So this group of 3 right here is sol, fa, sol. Then we have the notes that are above and below do. So here's do in this group of 3. Here is do right here. Here's do at the end of that group. Right in the middle, we have the note that's above do, which is re. And then in this fourth group of 3, we have the note that is right below do. Here we start with the do, we end with the do, and right below that is the note that is below do, which is C. Remember, do goes down to C, or another way of saying that is the letter name C goes down to B. So, if we were to follow these first 3 groups, starting here, the first group, group 1, is sol, la, sol. Group 2, or the second group of 3, is do, re, do. The third group of 3 is sol, fa, sol. And then the fourth group of 3 is do, si, do. So Manuel Pratique is kind of easing us into these new solfege syllables, re, fa, sol, and si, by situating them above and below the notes that we already know. And then Manuel Pratique is going to go on and do the same thing with the sol that's above the staff, and then do the same thing with the do in the beginning of the second line that is below the staff on that ledger line. But the actual way that we do this is going to be exactly the same. Now remember, when we go to perform this, as we will at the end of the unit, we want to make sure that even though some of these notes look like quarter notes and some of these notes look like half notes, we are going to perform all of these notes at 1 beat per note. So we're going to ignore, this is the only place we're going to do it, we're going to ignore the fact that some look like half notes and some look like quarter notes. So when we perform this, here's my metronome at 100 beats per minute. It's going to be like this. Sol, la, sol, do, re, do. Sol, fa, sol, do, si, do. Sol, fa, sol, do, re, do, re, do, si, do. Sol, la, do, re, sol, fa, do, si, do, re, sol, fa, do.